All right. Hey, everyone. I am waiting just a minute to see if a few more people are going to join us. If you wouldn't mind, just let me know if you can hear me. Just type a message in the message portal. All right. Hey, everyone. So to make sure that I can hear everybody or see everybody. All right. Thanks, Kristen. It's good to see you guys. Cool. Well, why don't we hop in and I'll just let in some people as they come in. But thank you so much for signing up. This is the first webinar that we have done in probably 2 years. And so we're trying to kind of flex that muscle again this summer. So we have this marketing workshop series that we're going to be doing about every other week. And so if you're registered for this one, then look out for the upcoming ones. We're just going to send you guys a link so you don't have to continue to register for them. But we'll send you guys all the resources, the workbooks, all that kind of stuff. These are all things that we've talked about at conferences. These are all presentations that we've given or things that we've talked about on podcasts and things like that. And we just realized we're doing a horrible job at connecting with our target audience, the people on our email list, as well as our current and even former clients. We want to make sure that we're delivering value to everyone on our list. And so thank you guys so much for signing up for this first one. I'm going to share my screen here and I'm going to go through a presentation and talk about identifying your ideal audience or your ideal client. But if you haven't downloaded the workbook that I sent over yesterday, you can find it in the messaging portal here. You can download that PDF and you can fill it out on your laptop or computer, or you can print that out and write handwritten notes on it, share it with people in your office, what have you. But hopefully this will be a fun, interactive kind of workshop. I figured we could save maybe writing in some of the answers to the questions in the worksheet till the end. And if everyone feels comfortable with it and we have enough time, I would love for maybe a few of you to share what you've written down. But without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started? Let me see if I can share my screen here. Share this. And then let me hit present. All right. So the first topic in this summer workshop series is growing your law firm with your ideal client. Why are we starting here? I would say the majority of law firms that we work with, when we onboard them, they have no idea who their ideal client is. They have just kind of worked with a bunch of different clients, anyone who comes in the door that fits within their practice area. And there's some merit to that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But very few of them have a clear idea of what their ideal client looks like. And because of that, their marketing often falls flat and their marketing message really does not resonate well with the type of client that they want to attract. So our goals for today is to help you identify your ideal client so that way you can have a more cohesive message for your marketing and make sure that we are tailoring your marketing message to that ideal client, making sure that they feel heard, that they feel they've been empathized with, their problems have been pinpointed, and that you are delivering the value that they're searching for. So again, goals for today, we're going to identify your target audience, we're going to build a client avatar, and we are going to identify your ideal client. So we're going to start kind of broad and we're going to just whittle it in. And I think these basic kind of workshop style questions, they should be really easy to answer. There's not going to be anything that's going to be too detailed, but you can take this and you can kind of expound upon this as you're thinking about it over the weekend or throughout the month. So end result with identifying your ideal client is having more effective marketing. Again, just having a stronger marketing message and making sure that's more tailored to your ideal client. So this is something I hear all the time. I'll ask, who is your ideal client? And a lot of times people say, it's anyone who will pay. I'm sure that might be something that you've felt before joining this call. I used to laugh at this and think, it's way too vague and like people just don't get it. But then the more I thought about it, this actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because someone who is willing to pay you has a problem that you can solve. And that's how you identify kind of your ideal client, right? Like they are someone who needs your help and you are able to serve them and they're willing to pay you for that. Like their pain is so great that they're willing to give you money to solve that pain problem or to help them avoid pain. And so just trying to find a way to clearly articulate that to your audience is probably like, 50%, 60% of like having a good effective marketing campaign. So let's start with your target audience. Target audience is pretty simple. I just use these 3 fill in the blank questions to figure out what it is I want to say to someone or who I'm talking to. And so it's as someone who has blank, I want to blank so that I can blank. I'm going to give you guys an example of this here in a second, but really it is this simple. If you can just figure out what it is that someone is trying to accomplish and what they're going through, that's most of the battle. And we can really figure out who it is that you're talking to. So perfect example for, let's say, personal injury is as someone who has been injured in an accident, I want to get compensation for my injuries so that I can pay my medical bills and support my family. So, their goal is not to hire an attorney. Their goal is to pay their medical bills and support their family. And so we can figure out like what they're going through, what their goals are, and we can figure out, where they're starting and where they want to end up. And then we can craft our marketing message completely around that. Of course, this is pretty simple. Personal injury, criminal defense, a lot of those are really easy to identify. But I know there are people here on this call that we work with currently where that may not necessarily be super clear cut because your audience could be someone who is a family member of someone who is aging, right? You could be part of that sandwich generation where you're taking care of your children, but you're also taking care of your parents. And so the target audience may be different than the person who actually needs the service, which would be, the senior. It could be the adult parent who is trying to balance, their life right now and make sure that both their children and their family or their elder family members are taken care of. So this is a fun little kind of experiment to figure out who it is that you're really talking to. And the more granular you can get and the more in someone's head you can get, the better that this will start to look and kind of round out. But again, don't overthink it. I think just filling in those blanks will really help you kind of figure out that first step for figuring out who you're talking to. Second thing we want to do is create a client avatar. So with the target audience, we're pretty broad. We're talking about, in the instance of the personal injury case, everyone who's been injured and what they're going through and what they're trying to accomplish. But maybe we want to get like a little bit more specific and figure out who exactly it is that we're talking to. Client avatar is a great way to do this. And basically what we want to do is we want to create like kind of a caricature of your ideal client, right? So where do they shop? Where do they go to school? Do they have children? Are they married? Do they work? If so, where do they work? And so forth. So a few questions that we can answer here. Again, where do they live? What education level are they? Are they married? Do they have children? How old are they? What do they do for a living? I love these as well. Like, where do they shop? What kind of car do they drive? What are their hobbies? There's a difference between someone who shops at Walmart versus someone who shops at Target. It's kind of that nuance that really helps you figure out who it is you're speaking to. And it doesn't mean you have to just create one. You could create 2, create 3, create 4. And if you have multiple practice areas, I would recommend creating a client avatar for each one of these. For, let's say, a family law attorney that works in a suburban area, it could be someone who lives in one of the neighborhoods nearby the office, right? They have an education level of a bachelor degree or higher. They're married, have 2 children. They're in their late 30s, early 40s. Maybe one's a lawyer, one's an accountant. They're in professional services, and they love to shop at Whole Foods, and they drive a Suburban. And on the weekends, they go to see a movie, something like that. And that really kind of helps us identify what this person looks like, what their characteristics are like, what their actions are like. It's going to help us figure out how we want to talk to them and how we want to speak to them, and meet them kind of where they're at and speak to their level. And the other question I want to ask about your client avatar is what makes this client valuable to your law firm? So when you identify this client avatar, there's a little bit of an inclination to write out who you are, right? Like, because you're going to try to see yourself in your client. And so it's important to kind of separate the client avatar from like your own desires and like your own hobbies and your own characteristics, and really think about people that you've served in the past and what made them valuable to your firm. Was it that they were able to pay their bills? Was it that they had a really good case? Was it that they were just really pleasant to work with and that you felt really fulfilled in serving them? Those are all good things to think about as you're developing that client avatar. So once you have your client avatar in place, this is where you can really start to identify your ideal client. There's a few more questions that I really like to ask in order to figure out who this ideal client is and the type of case that we really want to focus on as you build your law firm. So one question I love to ask is, what is your favorite case that you've handled? So thinking back, even 5 years ago, what's that one case that stands out where everything just seemed to click? The client was great to work with. You had a lot of fun working on the case. It was challenging. It was just an overall good experience and a good outcome. And if you can identify that favorite case and see like what that pattern is, then you can be a little bit more intentional about the cases that you're going after and how you're articulating the services that you provide. I also want you to think about what your least favorite case was. Was there a client that was just a total pain to work with and you don't want to ever work with a client like that again? Was there a type of case that was just too much for your law firm to handle? It just was kind of a kink in your process and just didn't really work? Was it something where like it just wasn't challenging enough? It was boring to work on and something that you really couldn't see yourself doing more of. So figuring out what your favorite case was and your least favorite case was will kind of help you identify what type of cases you want to pursue in the future. And then this is just one of my absolute favorite questions to ask you. If you could only take one type of case for the rest of your life, what would it be? So if you could only do one type of case and that's the only type of case you could work on, what would get you out of bed energized? What would have you walk in the door with a big smile on your face and feel like I'm going to tackle today and I'm going to serve these people and I'm going to make sure that it's the best experience possible? For a lot of our clients, like this is something that they don't think about until they start to grow their practice and they're thinking about what is scalable for their law firm. If it's a solo attorney, a lot of times it's just, again, whatever comes in the door that's personal injury related. But as they continue to grow and as they continue to hire, it may be that they want to focus just on car accident cases because that's the type of case where like there's a good payout. The clients are good to work with. They have a good process for working with the insurance companies, and they can really scale that up over time. So whatever your practice area is, think about those cases that you could kind of take and funnel through a process and enjoy doing it while you're working on the case. So the final thing that we want to talk about is creating a marketing message that appeals to your client. And what we want to do is we want to get into the psychology of your client. So now that we have an idea of your target audience, we have a couple client avatars in place, and we've identified like the ideal client, we can start to get into the psychology of them and we can figure out how we want to massage our marketing message to better articulate our value to them. So a few questions to ask yourself: what problems are your target audience currently facing? Is this piling up of medical bills, going through a divorce, a stressful situation at work where there's discrimination? What internal problems are they facing? They have sleepless nights. Are they having trouble managing the stress of whatever it is they're going through? Are they missing out on, activities with their kids, with their family? And that's causing some stress as well. So think about like internally, what are they going through? So maybe not necessarily like the external factors that are causing that stress, but what they're feeling on the inside. What emotions are they experiencing? So again, are they experiencing fear? Are they experiencing stress? Are they experiencing excitement? So maybe if they're starting a new law firm, or sorry, a new business, and they're searching for a law firm to help them out, are they excited about that process? So matching that emotion and mirroring it to where they can really see themselves in the message that you're giving them. And then the last thing here is, what is someone trying to accomplish when they hire your law firm? So, they're not going to hire a law firm just for the sake of hiring a law firm. They want to transform from the situation that they're in right now to a better situation. So if they don't have a business, for example, they want to start a business. If they are experiencing trouble in their marriage, they would like to have a divorce that's amicable. If they have an aging parent, they want to make sure that their aging parent is taken care of. So trying to figure out what it is that they want to ultimately accomplish by hiring your firm is really going to be helpful in determining what it is that they're trying to do. So in the worksheet, which we'll get to in just a second, one thing that we want to do is list 3 problems that you solve for your client. So with an elder law attorney, it could be coordinating ongoing medical care. For personal injury attorney, it could be stopping debt collection. It could also be organizing medical records. These are all things that you could do to help your client that goes beyond just fixing the legal aspect of their problem. So when we're talking about building a landing page or a website or something like that, kind of diving into what those problems are, the problems that your target audience is facing, both the external and the internal, and listing out how you solve those problems, or the ones that you can solve for them. The other thing we want to do is list 3 things a client can expect when working with your firm. So they may be, again, experiencing that stress or that excitement. And so we want to be able to explain the value of your services and what you can really help them with. So will they be able to speak directly with an attorney? Will they receive frequent case updates? Can they text, call, or email? Just tell them what to expect. That way, it kind of demystifies the process for them. They know it to anticipate. It's going to break down that barrier to hiring you. And then last 2 things here. We want to define what success looks like for clients, and we also want to define what failure looks like for them. So success comes in a variety of forms. These are just some examples. So by hiring your law firm, you can help your client protect their children or achieve financial stability, give them clarity about their future, show them how they can grow their business. Maybe they're saving a family home, if they are facing foreclosure, relief from debt, protecting their freedom, in the case of a criminal defense attorney. And so as you start to think about your ideal client, show them what success looks like when they hire your law firm, what they can expect, and what the outcome should look like for them. And of course, we can't guarantee outcomes, but we can, talk about what success will look like at the end of representation, regardless of whether or not you're successful at trial or in negotiations. At the very least, we can, provide that clarity about the future, or, provide compassionate support, that sort of thing. And we also want to define what failure looks like. So examples of failure could be like not getting the attention that you need, anxiety about the future, family troubles, time in prison, a risk to your business. We don't want to use fear tactics. I always want to make sure that we're inspiring people, and giving them hope. That's just my personality, but I think it's helpful to show people that if they fail to take action, then these bad things can happen to them. And that's why it's so important to contact you and your law firm. Another way to put this too is, if they hire another law firm and they don't hire your law firm, what are they going to be missing out on? It could be that attention to detail. It could be that attention to the case. It could be compassionate support. We see this a lot with, let's say, like a boutique law firm that's competing against a much bigger law firm. A lot of times, the thing that someone would be missing out on by hiring the bigger law firm is going to be, that more detailed, more individualistic approach that they can expect from the boutique. So that is pretty much it, just from beginning to end, with identifying your target audience, looking at your client avatar, and then again, identifying your ideal client. what I would love to do here in the next 5 minutes is give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. I would love to also walk through this worksheet. I don't know if anyone's tried to fill this out prior to coming in, but I'm happy to walk through that and provide any insight or answer any questions that you guys may have. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this presentation and stop sharing my screen. And then anyone who would like to speak, you can raise your hand and I will let you guys on. All right, I see Maria.
I have a question for you.
Hold on.
So if in our law firm, we have the ideal client is that we market to and spend money on marketing to is somebody who pre-plans. But one of our more lucrative practices is the contested litigation and guardianship and probate, which is kind of a different audience and a different message. And we don't really put a ton of money to it. So what happens if it's a pretty equal balance between what brings in revenue, but the target audience is different? How do you determine where to allocate your resources?
It's a good question because your marketing sometimes doesn't go to, let's say, like the end user, right? I think a good example could be like, I'm trying to give you an example of like something I've seen in the past. So some law firms will give like tips and tricks, on like how to approach a certain type of case. For a layperson, those tricks and like those tips don't really make any difference because they're not the ones trying the case. They aren't the ones who are, going into a settlement or, developing a contract. But what the attorney is doing in that situation is they are demonstrating credibility and authority to the end user, but then also to other people in the industry, referral partners, colleagues, friends and family, that sort of thing. And so I think there's a lot of merit in identifying, let's say, like a target audience that's a little bit broader, and then still keeping in mind like what your ideal client is. And then I even think too, with like referrals and people who maybe come in through other marketing channels, being able to identify your ideal client is helpful in screening people and qualifying them. It goes beyond like just the marketing message. Like I see them, I mean, we've made this mistake in the past where we've taken on clients where they were not a good fit for our agency and our process. Even though they were great to work with, it just wasn't a good fit long-term because they didn't fit the mold of like our ideal client or like our target audience. And so it's helpful from like a business standpoint too, and just figuring out like, if this were to come in the door, would this be a good fit for us as we're growing the firm? Or is this the type of client that would ultimately be disqualified and we should refer it out?
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that is helpful. I also have another question that doesn't really, it's just general. Why stream live on YouTube? What does that do?
I am going to send out the link to you guys afterwards, and that way it's just on our YouTube channel. It's unlisted, so it's not being presented to the public.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I just wondered from like if we do webinars and things, is it beneficial to stream it on YouTube?
It is. We will likely publish it once we trim it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're, like I said, this is the first time we're doing a webinar in like 2 years. And so we're trying to get back into it. And so we were trying to think of the best way to distribute this to all of our clients. And YouTube seemed to be the best way. So that way we're not sending like a Zoom link. And so we're just using it unlisted right now, and then we'll send it back out to the client list afterwards.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
I know I saw you guys join, and I was really excited because we actually used you as an example in this same presentation for ClioCon specifically. So I like took out like more of the specific things to make it a little bit more general, but especially with elder law, it's such an interesting practice area because there are so many different client avatars that you can create. and there's so many different audiences that you can speak to. And so trying to figure out who you're talking to, what channel is best for that particular, audience, is somewhat of a challenge, but it's a good one because you have so many different people you can speak to, and you can create different campaigns for each of those, for each of those types of clients.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something we've worked to try to figure out who's the best audience that, I don't know, understands the message and acts on it. So thank you.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
a question too, but I'm not turning my video on like Maria. But is it beneficial to, when you're building your client avatar, and like you mentioned in Elder Law, we have a lot of possibilities for avatars, but to look at past clients, like how far back would you go when looking or building this avatar, or would you kind of just like, 2023 clients, or you get what I'm saying, or just like looking forward, what we want?
Yeah, I think it depends on the firm and like how long they've been around and what they've done in the past and how they've grown. There are a lot of lawyers out there who are satisfied with building a lifestyle business, and they're okay like not growing it beyond themselves. And so as they are determining their ideal client, it could be even seasonal. It could be one of those things where like they're going to create a campaign for, the summer, and then they're going to create a campaign for the winter. We have clients that do criminal defense as well as real estate, and there's seasons to both of those. And so they change kind of like what they're looking for throughout the year. But then we also have those clients that are looking to build like a bigger, kind of like empire, right? Like they're hiring people and they're trying to scale up. And so they do need the ability to have that predictability in the types of clients that they're bringing on. So that way they can continue to follow their process and they're not breaking that process every time they bring on a different type of client. And so I think there's benefit in having that look back period of a few years to kind of spot the patterns, right? I think 1 year may not be enough time to really identify like the pattern of cases that went really well. 5 years, maybe that's sufficient to say, over the course of 5 years, we've served 200, 300 clients, whatever it may be. And these 50 really stand out to us because of the revenue they brought in, of the process of the clients, how everything was handled. And so that's how I would kind of approach that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do we have any other questions? All right. So if we don't have any other questions, we finished right on time. I was shooting for 30 minutes. I know that I went through each of those slides pretty quick. I am going to send a recap of the workshop to everyone. I'll send the slides as well as the worksheet again, just in case you weren't able to download that. And if you do have any questions, you can respond back. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And if you are a current client and you fill this out, please send it to your account manager. And they all know that we're doing this workshop series. So send it over to them. Let them know that you filled it out. We'll keep it on file. And if you aren't a client, share it with someone on your team who's responsible for doing your marketing. If it's a freelancer, shoot it over to them or another agency. I just hope that this has been helpful for you guys. And yeah, like I said, any other questions you have, let me know. We will be doing more of these in the future. We'll send you guys a link to those. Feel free to join. But since you're on this email list, we will send you guys the recordings throughout the summer.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.